How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, November 4th, 2021. I'm James Sims, and for this episode, I'm going to do an elite individual profile on Achraf Hakimi. The elite Moroccan fullback for the PSG is turning 23 today, and my intention with this episode is, of course, to bring attention to what he's been able to do on and off the field, as he is one of the world's best soccer players at that position, considering how many professional soccer players are playing worldwide, how few players get the opportunities that Achraf Hakimi has had, and not only has he had those opportunities, he's more than exceeded what was expected of him in those roles. So just to give a little bit of a background on Achraf Hakimi, just to give you a good outlook over how he plays. He is a fullback. He is the right back for PSG, which means, of course, his original specialty is defense, as his task is to guard the best wingers in France and, of course, in the Champions League. He has to worry about that. And also, he has to be a part of the offense as a fullback as well. He's incredibly fast. He knows what he's doing. And the good thing about him is that he is 23 and he is continually getting better and better at his position. One day, he might be a midfielder. I have no idea as to whether he's going to stay at fullback, but he is definitely one of the best fullbacks in the business as of right now. And of course, getting into the background, his parents are Moroccan, but he grew up in Spain all his life, and he actually did represent Morocco all the way until he made his international debut in 2016 for the Moroccan team when he was only 17 years old. But however, alongside that, he was also a member of the Real Madrid youth organization for about 10 years. He signed in 2006. He would eventually get promoted to the actual Real Madrid team in 2017. But in his very first Real Madrid season, in his age 18 season, he would start 8 of the 9 games he played, and this is the very last season of the Galacticos era at Real Madrid, and this was Ronaldo's last season, the season where they finished 3rd in La Liga. They finished in the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey. However, they did go on to win Champions League, and I imagine by the time he got there, they were able to win the FIFA Club World Cup and the UEFA Super Cup. And I imagine he was there for the Supercopa de España, but that's just to give you an idea of of what Real Madrid was when Achraf Hakimi was fully promoted to the team. In the 9 matches he played, he did end up adding 2 goals to the squad. On the defensive side, he was a part of 4 clean sheets in the 9 matches he played. In Champions League, his side allowed 4 goals in the 2 matches he played. But following his debut season at Real Madrid, showing that he was at least a player that was worthy of getting consistent minutes on one of the best lineups, or I guess in the best lineup in Europe at the time, he would be named to the Moroccan team for the World Cup to compete with them. And in 2018, in the group stage, they would end up losing 1-0 to Iran, and they lost 1-0 to Portugal before drawing to Spain. But that so far is Achraf Hakimi's only World Cup appearance to date. And whether they're going to qualify for 2022 is still up for determination. But following his very first season where he debuted for Real Madrid, he would find himself getting loaned out to Borussia Dortmund for a couple of years. In his very first season at Borussia Dortmund, his age 19 season in 2018-2019, he would go on to start 19 of the 21 matches he played for a Borussia Dortmund team that would go on to finish with the second best record in the Bundesliga. They ended up losing in the round of 3 in the DFB Pokal and the round of 16 in the UEFA Champions League. But first, looking at how he did in the Bundesliga, he added 2 goals, just as many as he did with Real Madrid the previous season. However, this time he also added 4 assists. Not to mention that outside of those competitions, he was able to add a goal he was able to add a goal in the DFB Pokal as well, following the 2018-19 season, which saw Borussia Dortmund fall short of winning a trophy. Achraf Hakimi would lead Morocco to the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations tournament, where they would eventually end up losing to Benin on penalty kicks, and that was the last big international tournament that Achraf Hakimi had been on as a member of the Moroccan team. However, following his first loan season at Dortmund, he will come back for his second year on loan. In his second year on loan, he would start 29 of the 33 games he played for another Borussia Dortmund team that finished as runners-up in the Bundesliga. The only trophy they did win was the German Super Cup, as they were able to beat the reigning Bundesliga champs Bayern Munich, as that is the only trophy that Achraf Hakimi had collected, at least in Germany, up until that point. But of course, in the regular season in 2019-20, of course, this was the season this was the season where towards the end, it would get impacted by COVID and delay the end of the year. However, Achraf Hakimi finished with 5 goals and 10 assists in that season. At that point, that is the most goals he had ever scored in a season. The first time he'd ever scored 5 goals in a domestic season. He also added 10 assists, at least or at least he added 10 assists in Bundesliga. That is the only time that Achraf Hakimi has ever finished with double-digit assists in a domestic season. Also, in the Champions League that year, he was able to add 4 goals for a Borussia Dortmund team that would end up making it to the round of 16 again. They would fall just short. And even looking at how he fared in the Pokal, he only played 3 matches, allowing 4 goals in that span. But by the end of 2019-2020, Achraf Hakimi was looked at as one of the best players in the world and as a player that should at least be playing for the team that's paying for his contract rather than being loaned out. Following his second season, or following his 2 seasons on loan in the Bundesliga, Achraf Hakimi would eventually get picked up by Inter Milan. And once he was signed by Inter Milan, he'd only play 1 season at Inter. In his age 21 season, he would go on to start 29 of the 37 games he played for an Inter Milan team that actually went on to win the Serie A for the first time since 2010. So, of course, he was a very big part of that, as you can see. On the offensive side, he was able to add 7 goals and 8 assists. Of course, his 15-goal contributions are tied with his 2019-2020 season at Dortmund for the most that he's done in a domestic season. And in the 37 matches he played, he made sure that Inter Milan only conceded 26 goals in that span. He was responsible for 13 clean sheets, which is a little more than 1/3 of the matches that he played. Not to mention that with Inter Milan, they would eventually go on. They wouldn't even make it out of the group stage as they finished at the bottom of Champions League, and they also finished the semi-cup finalists, or the semi-finalists for the Serie A. But of course, the Serie A championship was a big trophy. That's the most recent trophy that Achraf Hakimi had won while he was at Italy. Following that season, he was eventually picked up to play for PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, over the offseason, as he was one of many pickups, including Sergio Ramos, Lionel Messi, to of course pad their push for the title this season. So far, Achraf Hakimi has played 15 games for the Parisian Legends, as he has 3 goals and 2 assists. Not to mention that in Champions League himself, he has not yet scored, but so far he's played all 4 of the games for a PSG team that is competing with Man City within its own table to make it out into knockouts. But as of right now, that is how his career is sort of lining up, as the Moroccan team is still looking to see if it's going to compete in the 2022 World Cup. That's the good thing about Achraf Hakimi. It leads us to where we are now. He's only 23 years old at this stage in his career. He has so much left ahead of him, and he's already found himself on one of the top clubs in the world with a very set position and he's virtually cemented himself as one of the best players in his position. Now, the question isn't whether he's going to be benched. The question is, when does he hit that next level? And the question is he already on that top tier level? And I think that we will find these questions out day by day. But I know that by this time next year, those questions will have more certain answers. Thanks once again for listening to all 10 minutes of this piece. I want to thank the Pro Football Reference websites, Transfermarkt, Footy Stats, and the Wikipedia pages that I use for the other stats and figures. I want to thank everyone for, of course, listening to all this. Of course, y'all are the reason that I keep going. And with that said, hopefully by this time next year, I'll have a lot more to say about Achraf Hakimi when he turns 24. Thanks once again for listening to this piece. Once again, today is Thursday, November 4th, 2021. And once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I will come back with another episode tomorrow. Until then, thanks for listening to my piece, and peace out. I'll catch you tomorrow.